Chapter 1. What is mentalism? What is mentalism? To answer that question is the purpose of this book. Mentalism is a power or force so subtle and yet so potential that to measure its breadth and depth and to ascertain all its uses and purposes would require more years than are allotted to man on this earth, for its possibilities are unlimited. It is the source of all intelligence and of all physical, social, mental, spiritual, scientific, artistic, and mechanical achievement and advancements. It underlies all knowledge, is the cause of all happiness or unhappiness, health or disease, success or failure, and without a doubt will be closely associated with our lives after we leave this earth. The power and principle of the law of mentalism are as old as humanity, having existed ever since man was created. In different ages of the world's progress, men have in some measure realized the existence of the law, but heretofore man has been unable to grasp it with any degree of completeness. He has, however, from time to time discovered few of its mysteries, and believing that he had the whole truth, formed and organized one of the sciences or religious sects known as mesmerism, hypnotism, personal magnetism, magnetic healing, mental science, Christian science, spiritualism, clairvoyance, clairaudience, telepathy, mediumship, etc. There is but one law underlying all these sciences, and that is the law of mentalism. However, the study of the various branches of this science have been the stepping stones in the onward march of mental supremacy. If one would learn any language, he must first learn the alphabet and then the words of one syllable before he can comprehend those of deeper meaning. Man cannot grasp all the truths and facts at once. Therefore, it has been necessary for humanity to move forward slowly, step by step, in its education. All things exist, but man knows of them only so far as he is educated to comprehend them. What is a fact to one is an unreality to another. Thus, no two people will exactly agree upon a given subject. In the study of the previously mentioned sciences, man has been going through a school that has prepared him to receive and comprehend the greater truths which are contained in the law of mentalism. Men have recognized the existence of this power or force and have given it various names. Biology says this force is life. Physics say it is thought or etheric energy. And philosophy, as represented by Herbert Spencer, says it is an infinite energy from which all things proceed. The Bible tells us that man was made in the image of God, is always loved by God, partakes of all the divine powers, is heir with God, and joint heir with Christ to all the divine potentiality, that man actually inherits and shares the power of God. Never until this 20th century have men understood the tremendous meaning of this statement. It is through advancement in the study of the relationship existing between the physical and mental forces of man that the great truth is drawing upon the minds of men, and that man's power may safely be called magical, measureless, and all-powerful. There is no longer any doubt in the minds of thinking men that the power of man's mind over his body is actually superior to any microbe or any disease. Then, if man is master over disease, which we know to be a fact, who can doubt that he has power over the natural forces? Christ says in John, "He that believeth in me, the works that I do, shall he also do, and greater works than these shall he." Mentalism is the harmonious action of these three most powerful faculties of the mental organization. The first of these is thought. The second is etheric energy, and the third is will. Thought is the intelligence which is collected by the brain for the use of the mind, from which passing mental vibrations are in harmony with it. Etheric energy is the force generated in the brain by the process of thinking. It is upon this force that thoughts travel from the cells of the brain to the destination. The will is the operator and director and dispatches and guides the thoughts to their respective station. Thus, thought conveyed by etheric energy and guided and controlled by will, becomes a power of such magnitude that neither material nor distance are a barrier to its transmission. Thought produces energy, and energy creates force, which in turn produces action and motion. Thought through motion displaces the atoms in the air which surrounds the body, thus causing vibrations or thought waves in the atmosphere. A weak thought makes only a silent displacement, just as a faint breeze sways, but gently the leaves of the trees, while strong, forceful thoughts displace the atoms over a greater area. Marconi, the inventor of wireless telegraphy, says that a word or its equivalent creates a vibration in the air, just as a pebble thrown into a pond creates a ripple in the water, and that this vibration travels with the speed of lightning to the terminus, however distant, and makes itself known and felt by every telegraph instrument that is tuned in harmony with the sender. In the same manner, a thought from the brain of one person travels on despite all resistance until it is taken up by the brain or brains that are in harmony with the mind from which it was sent. A thought of scorn or praise, when sent by the will from the brain, becomes a living force and is not lost in the multitude of sounds and vibrations, but goes on to find the individual against whom or in favor of whom it was directed. Such thoughts strike the person with an impact which either hurts or holds. Those who do not understand the law of mentalism may not know when these thoughts have taken flight, and for the same reason, the person receiving them may not know from whence they came. Nevertheless, he is either uplifted or depressed by them. Almost every person will admit of having often experienced a sudden depression, a feeling, or a fear that something unfortunate had or was about to occur. And again, at another time of being controlled by a sensation of hope, happiness, even in the face of seemingly unpleasant facts and with no apparent cause for it. There are a few people who have not been convinced at some time in their lives that they felt the thoughts of another influencing them, even when they knew that the person was at distance. Perhaps when deeply engrossed in work or studying, you have been startled by what seemed a living presence beside you, and the mental impression so strong that you involuntarily reached out your hand as though to touch the living flesh, while your eyes were fixed upon space and you saw more from within than from without. Or perhaps you experienced this same feeling of nearness of some friend whom you believed to be far away, and in a few moments he entered your presence and you in astonishment greeted him with, "I was just thinking of you." These or similar experiences demonstrate to what extent a person is sensitive to mentalism and to what degree other people are able to influence his thoughts and actions for good or evil. For the want of a better explanation, knowledge acquired in this way has been credited to telepathy or intuition, which means that it was gained through some faculty other than the five senses. It is a recognized truth that we cannot feel or know of that which does not exist. Therefore, such experiences not only prove the existence of the power, but they prove that we have the faculty to perceive that power. As man possesses this faculty, it is his duty to develop and use it for his own advancement and for that of humanity. It is an indisputable fact that thought is the foundation or creative force back of every action, whether it is a simple lifting of a hand or that used to build a city. The sculptor, by his thoughts, gives to his model shape, and being air, he chisels it from the marble. The artist likewise had already created the picture in his brain by his thoughts, or he attempted to reproduce it on canvas in color. Statuary pictures are but material reproductions of the artist's thoughts. And should you ask him, he would tell you that they were but poor imitations of the mental pictures from which he copied. A thought is but a flash of intelligence that illuminates the brain. Intelligence has always existed and will always exist, so there can be nothing new created. What we call new is but another spark of light that we have learned to recognize. Thoughts that cannot be measured or compared by the previous experiences of the person have been called imagination. There is no such faculty, quality, or organ. Such thoughts are transferred to the person by mentalism. They are not original or imaginative. They are real. They are a part of the great intelligence, and we but receive and use such parts of this intelligence as we are able to understand. The thoughts that we think have been thought before by others and will be thought by others after we have passed and our little sun has gone back. It is by the law of mentalism that we read or understand the thoughts sent to us by others. What people think of us influences and affects us and plays an important part in our lives. What we say, speech is but an expression of thought or think of others, excites in them some emotion or passion. To what extent these influences are effective is determined by the strength of the will that guides them and the sensitiveness of the person to whom they are sent. Thoughts not guided by the will may travel in any direction and affect those for whom they were not intended. To illustrate, the subtle etheric force upon which thought travels is contained in the cells of the brain, and it's set into action through the process of thinking and emanates from the brain in waves or currents similar to electricity. As these currents are generated, they must of a necessity find space to occupy, and in so doing pass off into the atmosphere. In this condition, the force is similar to electricity or steam, which after being generated is allowed to escape in every direction because no measures are taken to control it. It can be readily seen that in order to control this valuable force, which is constantly going to waste, the guidance of the will is necessary. When economically controlled, steam and electricity are valuable agents in executing man's desires, but they are not as valuable as mentalism, for without thought and mentalism, these forces would never have been controlled. Steam and electricity, uncontrolled, are dangerous elements, and so are uncontrolled thoughts. One cannot estimate the amount of damage they do and the number of lives they destroy. Force is not gravity, nor electricity, nor magnetism, nor chemical affinity, but will is the typical idea of force. Dr. Brown.